In a recent video, a high school senior called in and asked Dave Ramsey about the national debt. And while I agree with some of Dave's answer, I have to say he gets the severity of our nation's debt crisis dead wrong. This is particularly disturbing for someone who has built his career on warning people about the dangers of unsustainable debt. So add this to the list of things I don't agree with Dave Ramsey about. Let's take a listen to how this conversation starts, and I'll tell you my concerns as we go along.
Chris is with us in Dallas, Texas to start this hour. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Hey, Dave. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. What's up?
So I'm a high school senior right now taking just kind of a personal finance class. And I was just wondering if you're concerned about how, the national debt reaching $30 trillion and how that should affect just our overall personal finance strategy.
Okay, so this kid is probably 18 years old, and he's taken stock of the staggering national debt and all its implications, and he rightly asks the question, should I be worried? And if so, what can I do about it? Let's see how Dave responds.
Well, I'm sorry, as a high school senior, you're having to worry about such things. I've got a long history of fretting and alternately being angry about the national debt being out of control, mainly because it represents a Congress that's out of control, and we don't seem to have the backbone in the American people to vote the bozos out. So they keep spending like there's no tomorrow. And everybody's a little bit lazy about it, so it just keeps going and going and going. So, yeah, I'm with you. It's bothersome. It's obviously there's a tipping point somewhere.
So Dave condemns the debt, agrees that it's worrisome, points out the source of the problem, a lack of leadership in Congress, and confirms that at some point in time there will be a day of reckoning. Had Dave stopped there, I probably wouldn't be making a video about his response. However, he didn't stop there. What comes next betrays a misunderstanding about the true implications of the national debt for our country. Let's take a listen to the next clip.
I will tell you that the end of the world has been predicted as long as I can remember, due to the national debt or due to whatever other boogeyman you want to come up with. And I actually read a book when I was a little bit older than you called Bankruptcy 1984 that predicted that the national debt was going to hockey stick and the nation would collapse in 1984. Obviously, that was wrong. There was another book that a friend of mine wrote called The Coming Economic Earthquake, predicting the exact same thing in the same decade. He was wrong.
Okay, so Dave seems to have succumbed to the boy who cried wolf mentality on the national debt. He read two different books in the 80s and 90s on how the national debt was going to destroy the country, and those predictions didn't come to pass. Therefore, why should we really be concerned about the trajectory of the national debt in 2023? Now, while I haven't read the books that Dave references, which were published in 1984 and 1991 respectively, I can tell you that the reason why experts are concerned with debt today is far more alarming than what they were talking about back then. To illustrate why this is the case, I'm going to reference what Dr. Larry Kotlikoff out of Boston University said in my documentary, The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming. He said that the level of debt a country has is never the issue. It's always the debt relative to their gross domestic product. To illustrate his point, he used the example of Bill Gates. Gates could have $1 billion of personal debt. And while that would be devastating to normal, everyday folks like you and me, it's nothing when compared to his overall net worth. At the same time, our country's debt wouldn't be such a big deal if the growth of our economy were keeping pace with it, but it's not. And that's why things are so different this time around. And that's why the single most important barometer about the severity of the national debt is the debt to GDP ratio. According to the World Bank, a healthy debt to GDP is 77% or lower. When you exceed 77%, it starts to exert a negative impact on your country's economic growth. The higher your debt to GDP, the slower your economy grows. So how exactly is our debt to GDP ratio trending over the next 60 years? Let's take a look. The steepness of this curve should instill fear in every high school senior within the sound of my voice. Let's keep listening.
But I look back on all the things I've worried about, and none of them have happened. So I think it's bad because I think it represents a lack of discipline on the American people's part and on our quote-unquote representatives' part. I think it's pitiful. It's outrageous. But does it affect my investing? Not a dime.
Okay, so Dave reminds us of how scandalous it is that our elected officials have let the debt get this high, a sentiment with which I agree. But that's where he leaves it. The average American investor should not be worried about the national debt, and it should not change their investing fundamentals, or so Dave reasons. Now, while I agree that people with long-term investment horizons should not stay up at night worrying about their investment strategy vis-a-vis the national debt, they should be worried about the types of accounts within which they are investing. And this is where Dave Ramsey really dropped the ball. He missed a golden opportunity to draw a straight line connection between the national debt and the importance of investing in tax-free accounts. You see, there are some really smart people in Washington who are gravely concerned about the national debt and have made very specific predictions about its implications for your retirement plan. Take former Comptroller General of the federal government, David Walker, for example. In his best-selling book, Come Back America, that he wrote in 2010, he very explicitly predicted that by the time 2030 rolled around, the debt would be so high and so out of control that the federal government would have to raise effective tax rates on middle America to 45%. That's a doubling of tax rates for most Americans. Another expert, economist Brian Beaulieu, has predicted that there will likely be a Great Depression in 2030 because of the national debt. So, given all of the readily accessible studies warning of the dangers of the national debt for everyday Americans, why doesn't he understand the magnitude of the problem? Why didn't he highlight the importance of Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, and Roth conversions to this high school senior? Because this 18-year-old is doubtlessly marching into a future where average effective tax rates are likely to be dramatically higher than they are today. In summary, Americans of all ages should be concerned about the national debt. It should alarm them primarily because of the level to which taxes will have to rise to be able to service that debt. It should spur them to make important decisions about the timing of tax payments in their retirement plans. Do they take a deduction at today's historically low tax rates and then roll the dice on where taxes will be sometime down the road? Or do they take advantage of historically low tax rates today so that by the time tax rates rise precipitously, sometime down the road, they've done all the heavy lifting and then can take those dollars out 100% tax-free? Those are massive decisions that could determine whether your retirement savings last through life expectancy or whether you die broke and live out the balance of your retirement subsisting on Social Security alone. And these decisions have everything to do with the national debt. Dave Ramsey has a huge platform, and when he talks, people listen. Unfortunately, he missed an important opportunity to warn people about the cataclysmic implications of the national debt for each and every American listening to this video. And I fear it's because he doesn't fully understand the implications of that debt for the fiscal outlook of our country. If you need some help shielding your retirement savings from the impact of higher taxes down the road, be sure to check out my tax-free toolkit. You can download it for free at taxfreetoolkit.com. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified Power Zero advisor, head over to powerzero.com and opt into my free 3-part video series. By the way, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll respond to every single one of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.